kind of ass whooping? He said, yeah. He smiled. You stole the show. I know it's you're the main event. You're supposed to, but you delivered.
Right.
And you after it, you said knock knock Tank.
Yeah.
I'm knocking on the door. You came over here. You said light skin. A lot of fight fans like when people call out.
Yeah.
And things like that.
But only person that don't like it is him. He's kind of weird. But now he got no choice but to fight me. The fans want him to fight me. After what I just did tonight against a guy that's bigger than him. Come on now, if I touch him, what's gonna happen? Talk about that. Everybody wanna talk about, Keyshawn, what if he touch you? What if I touch him?
Welcome back to the Angry Man Podcast with Jason and Greg. So, big night last night for Keyshawn Davis against Gustavo Lemos, dispatching of him in 2 rounds in devastating fashion. And so I was pretty impressed with what I saw from Keyshawn last night. And of course, after the fight, he calls out Gervonta Davis, and that's regular for fighters that are in and around that weight class. They're going to keep the name of Gervonta Davis in their mouths because that is the name that would actually feed them in terms of a big fight and putting, a big bag on the table in front of them. So, I think it's probably a good idea to have a conversation about whether or not Keyshawn Davis is ready for Gervonta Davis fight. Now, I've seen many people in the comment section and in the Discord discussing whether or not he is ready for a Gervonta Davis fight, and then comparing him to Lamont Roach or Frank Martin in regards to readiness for a fight with Tank. Look, Keyshawn Davis now has 12 fights. 12. We're comparing him to Lamont Roach, who has 26 fights, and he is a world champion. Frank Martin, had 17, 18 fights when he fought Gervonta Davis and was ranked in the top 5 in 3 out of the 4 sanctioning bodies. So it's not quite the same, but he did have a spectacular performance last night, and I think we should, circle back to whether or not he would be ready for a Gervonta Davis fight. Now, I want to preface my comments by saying this. Again, I was very impressed with what was done last night, not only inside of the ring, but also outside of the ring. I think Top Rank did a pretty good job in promoting Keyshawn Davis and giving him a platform in order to showcase his skills. But not only that, I think Keyshawn Davis has the mouthpiece to really elevate his brand using that platform. It's very similar to the strategy that he took for Terrence Crawford and tying his name to Errol Spence. The only difference is Keyshawn Davis has the mouthpiece. Terrence Crawford does not. So I believe Keyshawn could take his game plan or take his game to another level with Top Rank where Terrence Crawford and Shakur Stevenson could not. So with that in mind, I would say an amazing night, and they're going in the right direction. But when we start to talk about whether or not he's ready for Gervonta Davis and if he's even positioned himself for the opportunity to get that fight, I would say no. I mean, Keyshawn Davis still has 12 fights. 12. And although I think his mouthpiece is amazing, just because you talk doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get an opportunity at the top name in the sport. Let's not get this twisted. Gustavo Lemos was 25-1 when he faced Keyshawn Davis last night. The guy was coming down in weight, was big for 140 pounds, coming down to 135, could not make the weight, was forced to stay at least 146 pounds until early that morning in order to make the fight happen. And then finally was allowed to rehydrate up to whatever his walk around weight was. That did not occur with Keyshawn Davis. Keyshawn Davis actually stated in the fighters meeting, and this is something that came directly from Tim Bradley, that their thought process was he was going to come into the ring a bit weight drained, and that they would be able to take advantage of him early on, and that's exactly how it happened. So they have matchmakers for a reason. There's a lot of thought process put into who you put into the ring with a fighter who's only had 11 fights, and of course, when you got a homecoming fight against an opponent, they're going to make sure that they put someone in the ring for you who you're going to look spectacular against, specifically if you don't have a title. So I would caution people to pump the brakes to a certain extent, because just because a fighter has a good showing against a fighter like that doesn't mean that he's going to look like that against the other top fighters at 135 pounds that are going to be able to match speed and skill. Lemos looked slow. Lemos looped a lot of his punches. Lemos' balance didn't look great. And all Keyshawn did was just sit in the pocket and throw straight shots and catch him as he was coming in. Did it look great? Absolutely. I'm not taking anything away from that. But there are a number of other fighters that probably could have done the same thing, particularly if they had punching power. Richardson Hitchens beat the guy. And I think Richardson Hitchens beat him by unanimous decision. But Richardson Hitchens doesn't have that kind of pop either. But somebody like Devin would have had like a freaking field day with this guy. Shakur would have had a field day with the guy. And I don't think they would have knocked him out, but they would have had a field day with the guy. So, I mean, I respect what Keyshawn is doing. I certainly respect what Top Rank is doing with his career. And I like that he's boisterous. You know, he's going to talk. Continuously calling out Gervonta Davis, I think at some point starts to look like clout chasing, because I think in reality, all of us know that he's not going to get the opportunity to face Tank. Why would he get the opportunity to face Tank with 11 fights? If Tank were to take a Keyshawn Davis fight and beat him, what are the people going to say? No one's going to give him credit for beating Keyshawn Davis. All they're going to say is that the guy hadn't fought anybody. I mean, he only had 12 fights. That's what they're going to say. You know, the tone and the tune will be different leading up to the fight. And if Tank beats him, which I would expect Tank to beat him, then what would happen after the fight is that tune and tone will change. Now you'll start to hear things about, well, he only had 12 fights. Tank ain't fought nobody. He ain't beat no world champion. He hasn't beat a guy that's ranked in the top 15 or this or that, whatever. That's what you hear. So I don't see why Tank would even be remotely interested in making this fight. But it is what it is. We'll see what ends up happening. But I did want to address it because I know a lot of people are now talking about Keyshawn Davis. Shout out to Keyshawn Davis. I thought it was a great performance. More and more I'm liking him. I like people that talk. I'm from Florida. I like talkers. That's what we do in Florida. We talk trash. So I like talkers. So specifically when a talker actually make the fight. As long as he continues to do that, then I have no issue with him. But he's not going to get a Gervonta Davis fight. You guys let me know what you think in the comments section in regards to this particular topic. Don't forget to hit, like, comment, and subscribe. This is the Angry Man Podcast, AM Sports Media, and I am out.